In my most recent video, I had mentioned towards the end of the video that I think that the Aether storyline returning in Black Ops Cold War is incredibly important to the success of the zombies game mode. And when I said that, I assumed some people were going to disagree, no biggie. And of course, when I scrolled down to the comments after the video had been out for a while, sure enough, I saw a couple people disagreeing with that idea, but not too many. But later that exact same day, a bigger zombies YouTuber named Russian made a video on the sole idea that the Aether storyline should return in Black Ops Cold War. And to again scroll down to the comments to see what they were saying, as always, and to my surprise, there were a lot of people who disagreed with him, and I was really surprised with how many comments I saw, and because of that, I got really interested, and late last night, I uploaded, or not uploaded, I put a community poll on my channel, which you can still vote on if you guys haven't, but either way, I put it up there and just asked, do you think the Aether storyline should return in one way or another in Black Ops Cold War? And right now, there's a decent amount of votes on it. There's over 100, which, you know, it's pretty good for my channel, I guess. But then, of course, I looked at the results. It's 75% say yes and 25% say no. And at this point, most people who think Aether should return will say, well, that's a good thing. That's the vast majority, right? Well, that's true, but you have to keep in mind, 25% is the entire fourth of the zombies community. If we can assume we could scale up this poll to the entire zombies community, that is a lot of people. That's millions of people that don't think Aether should return. Even if the vast majority do think it should, there's still an entire fourth that thinks it shouldn't, which again is a lot. But with that, I kind of wanted to talk about it in this video and exactly to discuss this and why I do think it should return. But before that, I want to talk about why I think it is going to return, whether you like it or not. And the reason being is, just look back on Black Ops 4. Like, it's so obvious to me that it would be a mistake not to have the Aether storyline return, and again, one way or another. And the reason being is because you look at, I always use this as a perfect example because I think it shows it so much. You look at Ancient Evil, and then you look at Alpha Omega. You have these two maps, and everyone will agree, in terms of gameplay, the Ancient Evil map is just so much better. It is the better map. Like, overall gameplay-wise, it is the better map. And then you have Alpha Omega, which nobody thinks is good in terms of gameplay for the most part. Like, a lot of people are like, kind of an awkward map, you know? Not many people are going to tell you anything special about the map. But because of the sole fact that it is an Aether map, it was more popular. More people were more interested solely because it was an Aether map. It could be way worse than any other story that there is. Like, a story could have like one of the greatest maps of all time, but because of the fact that they're not Aether, that will always hold them back. And because of that, I just do not think that you could see any possibility for Treyarch or Activision to think of a logical reason why they would do anything besides Aether at this point, because the only attempt that they've had at not Aether has fallen flat on its face. Like, it just did. Nobody, or I guess most people, the vast majority of people, did not like it. And honestly, Aether just brings in so much more eyes, so much more attention, so much more dollars. And to me, it just seems so obvious that there's no way that Activision and Treyarch would not choose to go back with Aether, whether it be a hard reboot, soft reboot, or some weird continuation. Either way, I think it's just that obvious to me that I think it's going to return. There's still a possibility it won't, but I think it is on the most likely case scenario. But either way, now I kind of want to get into why some people don't want it to return, or at least the main themes that I got. And the first one I heard is that the storyline ended, so it can't continue, right? Like, it ended, right? We all saw it happen in Tog the Toten, right? We saw it. Saw that happened. I agree. It happened. Which is fair. That's entirely fair. The storyline ended. It shouldn't continue. Fair. I can't argue with the facts. But the thing is that money doesn't care about the facts at all. It just cares about making more money, and exactly going back to the popularity thing. Popularity, more money, and that whole thing. And that's the thing. But overall, the reason outside of money that I think that this is the thing is that I personally think that rebooting the Aether storyline is a better thing than anything. I think all of our options is doing a not about a hard or soft reboot, kind of somewhere in that middle ground, maybe a medium reboot if that's a thing. I think that's the best idea, because the reason I think that's a great idea is because I don't want all of the storyline that we've had in the Aether storyline up until this point to be useless. Like I hate the idea that everything we did in the Aether storyline is just now useless and we're still continuing the Aether storyline. I just don't like that idea in the slightest, because there's just so much work that it felt like we put into that just for it to all be useless now in this new Aether storyline. And that's the reason why I'm against it. But at the exact same time, I don't want to be held down by everything the Aether storyline has put until this point. So that's why I said to have a medium-ish reboot, to have a lot of things change, a lot of characters never return, a lot of things just not happen anymore. But overall, I think that the things that happened in the past should still be relevant to what's going on in the story currently. Maybe not affect it, but they still happen. You know, these things still happen. And maybe one or two things here and there could affect what happens in the future, but most things should be left behind. Just say they happened, right? Just be a part of history, I guess you could think it as. Like, you know, this did happen, we're where this happened, but it's not really important to today, right? And, you know, I think things like that should be important, and that's why I think that having this medium-ish reboot would be perfect. And an example for you guys that I think is a perfect example of this medium reboot I speak of is that we continue the story following Kid Richtofen and Samantha. I think that is a great place to continue, because it lets us play as Samantha, which I think Samantha is the only good female character in the history of Treyarch Zombies, by the way. And either way, you just follow those two, which means you lose characters like Maxis, Sophia, which I don't know why I mentioned her, but then you lose Dempsey, Takio, Nikolai. You lose these characters that we never see again, so it does feel new, but you also have the familiarity of Samantha and Richtofen, just keeping some characters and knowing that the past happened, because Samantha and Richtofen still remember what happened in that past world, so it would continue to know it happened, but it's not really important to what's going to happen in the story going forward. And we could be introduced more characters along the way. We have kind of a fresh restart, and I think that's really, really important, that you find some sort of mixture of like a feeling new, but not forgetting all the things that we put work into in the past. And that's where I think it should go. That's personally the direction I think it should go. And I don't really know how I got to this. I really felt like I was going to mention this towards the end of the video, but I just mentioned that there. Either way, I honestly can't really argue with myself. I really like that idea. I don't think you guys really understand how much I like that idea that I just mentioned, that having this medium-ish reboot where things in the past still happen. Like, those happen, those are facts. But they're not really essentially going to affect what's going to happen so much. Like we've seen, we have that fresh restart, we have a lot of characters gone, but new characters to be introduced to, and just stuff like that. And I just think that overall that would be the best option. So yeah. And another reason real quick that I wanted to mention real quick that I've been hearing so many people say for why the Aether storyline shouldn't return is because it's stale. That's wrong. That's just wrong. It's just not stale. It was not stale. And like, as bad as the map that Blood of the Dead was, come on, the storyline that, are you going to tell me that was bad? Nah, don't even talk to me if you're going to tell me the Blood of the Dead story is bad. It's just not. It just was not bad. And if you think it was bad, you just don't get the Aether storyline, and the Aether storyline just never was for you. And same thing with Classified. It was a great story, bad map again. In terms of gameplay, which is incredibly important still, but either way, the story was great in that map. Even in Alpha Omega, the conversational quotes were very, very cool, but you know, it just again was on a bad map though. But like, the only problem with Aether last time around was that the maps they were on, the story was fine up until Togler Toten. Yeah, Togler Toten. But yeah, I don't know. Either way, that's all I really wanted to say here today. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this whole thing. What do you guys think about this? Like, just your thoughts and opinions. Like, personally, again, you guys already know where I stand. I think we should have a medium-ish reboot where, you know, I already mentioned it. I'm about to go on this whole story again, so I'm going to stop myself right there. But you already know where I stand. I'd love to hear where you guys stand on this idea down in the comments. Do you like the idea of a Aether reboot, a hard reboot, soft reboot, medium reboot, or to leave it all behind? And just give me your ideas. And one thing I'd love to hear, I know it sounds like I'm asking for your fanfics, but I kind of am, but I just love to hear what are your ideas. If they were to reboot the story, where do you think they should go? Or if they were to just straight continue the story, where do you think they could go with it? And I'd love to hear that down in the comments if you guys are willing to share. But either way, that's about it for me. If you guys did enjoy the video, definitely do all the normal YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, bell, share, and all that good stuff. But I'm going to go, and I'll catch you guys next stream video or whatever in the heck it may be. Laters, guys.